Hello, good morning, and welcome to Logistics Managers webinar with Konica Minolta and Hyland. I'm Caroline Peachy. I'm the editor of Logistics Manager, and I'm your host for today's session titled Getting Data Under Control with Konica Minolta and Hyland. Today, across the logistics sector, many organisations continue to struggle with manual data entry, fragmented information flows, and inconsistent classification, which reduces productivity and increases the risk of errors. Today, we'll learn how organisations can best leverage artificial intelligence to perform basic processes and improve their effectiveness. I'm delighted to be joined today by three experts. We've got Mark Ferguson, Pre-Sales Solutions Consultant at Konica Minolta, Alistair Cahoon, Technical Specialist at Konica Minolta, and John Whittier, Specialist Sales EMEA and APAC at the Content Innovation Cloud at Hyland. Over the course of this webinar, these experts will unpack how you can unlock the future of intelligent information management. You'll learn how intelligent automation and machine learning can eliminate the need for manual data entry, how to improve compliance through smarter document management systems, and how AI can help improve your processes. At this point, I'd like to encourage all of our viewers to ask questions throughout the presentation using the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Please remember, submit your name and job title when asking a question. I will pose as many questions as possible to our speakers in the time available, and any questions that we don't get round to will be answered after the webinar. Also, a recording of the webinar will be made available on demand via Logistics Manager, so look out for that as well. With that, I'll now hand over to Mark Ferguson from Konica Minolta to start the presentation. Mark, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. Just some introductions first of all. Thank you very much, Caroline. First of all, I'm Mark Ferguson, Pre-Sales Consultant at Konica Minolta. My job is to work with our customers to find the requirements and decide on the best possible solutions going forward, and work in partnership with our customers for the length of their contracts with us. It's very important to become a partner with clients to ensure that as things change with our clients, that we can help them in those changes. John?
Hi, my name is John Whittier. I work for Hyland within a function called Content Innovation Cloud, which is effectively Hyland's AI. And it's really nice to be speaking to you today from the logistics industry because I once worked around the logistics industry in bank lending. I was a financier of trucks and trailers and various equipment for about 6 years. So it's really interesting to rejoin and find out about this industry itself. Heading over to Alec.
Hi, I'm Alistair Cahoon. I work at Konica Minolta, and I've been involved in information management and business process automation, bit of a mouthful, for over 25 years. As a technical specialist, much of my time is spent listening to our clients and learning and understanding the day-to-day business challenges, no matter how small or mundane, or in some cases invisible, but things that businesses and employees face from day to day in their tasks, which can, in many cases, be automated or improved. I am a technical specialist, so I get to play with all of the toys, so to speak. Here at Konica Minolta, we've got quite a powerful set of software solutions that we can use to model and fit most business scenarios. And that's from very simple things like capturing of documents. It might be searching or retrieving data, or it's implementing things like intelligent workflows that we'll go on to discuss in this webinar. I do work with an incredibly talented team here at Konica Minolta, and we're generally able to translate the business problem into a workable solution that benefits clients in terms of their business, and in terms of time, automation, security, and auditing as well. As hopefully I'll get across to you, I'm very passionate about what I do, not least because I get the privilege of seeing how a lot of our business solutions actually benefit our clients, which I find hugely rewarding. So let me kick off by telling you a little bit about Konica Minolta as a whole. Konica Minolta is ultimately a technology company that helps businesses work smarter. It's got roots that date back 150 years and a global outreach in multiple countries. We make hardware such as printers, scanners, multifunction machines that can print, scan, copy, and manage documents effectively. But we also provide solutions that help organizations store, organize, and automate their documents. Not just documents, but data, workflows. And we try to reduce the manual work that goes into every organization. Beyond printing and information management, we also offer IT services, cloud solutions, and tools that help improve security and productivity. Konica Minolta, as I mentioned, have a significant global footprint, but also in industries such as healthcare, education, manufacturing, and professional services. Much of this capability would not be possible without the tight partnership that we have with Hyland, providing us with solutions that we can tailor for our clients' needs. So overall, we're here to help companies save time, cut costs, and work more effectively over an ever-increasingly digital landscape by combining the smart hardware, helpful software, and expert support.
I will cover Hyland as a company. So Hyland are an unstructured data company. So just to explain what that is, what is unstructured data, that's the documents and paperwork that you will see every day that are created into PDFs or files that a company will need to store in repositories and keep safe and keep that information handy to be used, but also safe from going outside of your borders. Hyland have been doing this for around 40 years. And we have a number of key products, both on-premise and SaaS service online cloud-based storage. People choose Hyland predominantly because of the security. We take that very seriously, and the way that documents can be accessed is really, really important. In recent years, we've now worked into AI. And effectively, the AI built around Hyland is designed to maximize the usage of unstructured data. What's value, the trapped value within that unstructured data can be released now using AI, which previously wasn't the case. Previously, it was just stored, kept, and maintained out the way. Now you can actually see value. This is creating a whole new set of use cases, a whole new set of ways of working, and whole new opportunities for business, which we're trying to enable. So it just gives you a quick idea of Hyland. And I'll hand over to Mark, who'll cover the way we work together.
So it's really important for ourselves at Konica and Hyland to work in a consultative approach, and that's with our customers as well. It's important to ensure that we discover the right information to make decisions on what solutions going forward. So we partner with Hyland to ensure that the solutions going forward are the best possible solutions for our clients. We want to become a trusted partner or trusted partners with our customers to ensure that we can be there for the whole life of change and whatever changes may affect the industry going forward. It's important to have excellent partners to ensure that those changes can be met and can be delivered successfully.
Okay, so really we're going to cover a number of things today, just quickly, 3 topics. This is really an introduction to a new technology, but we're also trying to cover it in the context of the logistics industry, as expected. We're not experts in the logistics industry. We both have customers who are in that place, but we wouldn't say we're experts. But really, what we're finding is the technology engaged with this technology it can be applied to any technology, and it's kind of a bit of a leveler. AI has become a bit of a leveling across the board. But what we're going to go through is 3 things. We're going to look at current industry observations. We're going to look at whether technology is or is not a solution and give some examples, and then how applicable is AI and some starting points within that, because we feel that will be useful, and that's actually where most people are stuck with that process from there. So let me just cover quickly some of the things we won't be able to cover. We won't be able to cover fuel costs or lack of skilled workers, changes in regulations. I'm afraid those aren't things that we can do. But where we will and where we can help in the industry is where there's an ultimate strive for automation. This is not unique to logistics. This is something that everybody is trying to do at the moment as a formulation. Automation has been a desire and a goal for many people to reduce the costs of delivery, to reduce the amount of human interaction to keep things going. I was once given an adage by somebody who ran a logistics company, and he said that once my freight stops, I stop making money. So we're really trying to keep everything going, keep it moving when we're working through, and the process automation will ensure that happens to keep the freight moving as it's moving through. The next point is merger and acquisitions. We know that there's a lot of this has happened in the industry, and this generates a very, very unusual set of circumstances. You're crashing systems together, you're bringing them integrate or trying to integrate them. This creates wastage and loss. And sometimes it's a scenario where you can't do everything that you want to within that merger and acquisitions. So sometimes technologies like AI seem like a bit of a distant element, but you can build on top of it, and it can be done in a way that means you don't touch the existing systems until they're ready to be touched and integrated from there.
So, John,
And
would you say that it's important to have the right information to be able to make the correct decisions going forward, which is not happening at the moment, maybe?
Yes, I would agree with that. A lot of information is held in unstructured data and kept away from people. And then it means you can't make decisions on valuations. You can't make decisions on whether mergers will even be worth it or even what can be achieved through that. So the process is quite hard, and that information is locked away. And I feel that unstructured data, the paperwork that sits in these repositories, is something that if you could enable would actually be far more valuable to a customer when they're working through.
Thank you.
Manual paperwork. This is a bane of everybody's life outside of logistics. I believe this is a real element that logistics feels the pain, probably one of the most areas we see from there. And that's not because the manual paperwork is generated by yourselves as industry, but the manual paperwork is insisted on by others around you, the customs people, the way the freight moves through different areas, checks, balances, keeping the systems to make sure that the food is safe and secure. Those things are imposed, but that manual paperwork can be very, very difficult to consume, because if you're trying to create efficiencies and process flows, it's the one key part that's going to make a difference. This is where the new technologies can really help. Manual paperwork can be really coped with by AI. It's something that hasn't happened before, and it's almost this release of value really is beginning to work it through. And the flows that are working through. Go on.
Yeah, my customers, one of my logistics customers, the one thing they specifically say is that if documentation is missing, that's one of the hardest things to deal with, John.
Yeah, missing paperwork is probably one of the biggest issues, and that's the surprising thing. Not only missing paperwork, but also missing components in a paperwork, and that's been an element that's been very difficult to capture. But now it's actually feasible to capture a signature or a missing signature from a document. And that doesn't sound significant until you're trying to have a signed document that needs to progress within your load that you're working to. Now, linked to mergers and acquisitions, we have data held in silos. Now, this data can be any data, but we're really talking about unstructured data. And when we talk about silos, which Ali will probably give lots of information about, is where do these things sit and how unintegrated are they? Because what we find in processes is you can't pull from the correct data. You don't know where that data is and what it does. And we have new technologies now that will enable you to maximize those silos and actually bring them together while still leaving them potentially where they are. A lot of the historic work with silos was bring them all together. That's really simple. We'll just have them all in one place. Yeah. That's very, very difficult.
Just took the words out of my mouth there, John. Yeah, I mean, the number of sites I go and visit, and indeed you find everything from piled up physical paperwork to so yes, we've stored those in our emails, or they're stored on a network folder somewhere, or even sometimes little zip disks that people carry around in their pockets and things like that. And it was very much a challenge to try and centralize all of that information before, but that became as bigger upheaval as actually managing the data in the first place, the acquisition of it. And just touching back to the mergers and acquisitions, yes, of course, you're right. You end up with potentially double that work every time you've onboarded a new business or a new department or something. So having an overall tool or solution that can sit on top of that and actually be quite agnostic to wherever that data is held, it's become incredibly important. And that's where we don't need to focus quite so much on the fact that things are siloed, but indeed make the most of the information that is held within them.
Yeah, it's really important to have access to the right data at the right time, and that's why I find our customers don't have at the moment is access to all of the information to make the right decisions. And moving forward, we hope we can solve some of those issues.
That's right. And sometimes it's not just the ability to find a piece of paper. It might be invoice 123 I want to find. It might be I want to look more broadly. Find me every invoice that doesn't have a delivery document with it, or find me some information on my fleet management that may be buried away inside multiple different locations or something like that. It's something more contextual based in that search rather than just saying I need document number 123, which in the reality of business is very seldom the case that somebody can do a simple search like that.
One of the issues we also see that Ali's kind of touched on there is around, these can all be owned by different people. Customers will have bought different services from different suppliers at different times, and the interoperability isn't always there. So you end up with a scenario where even the technology won't talk to other technology, and that connective tissue, the arrows between what goes on, can be really useful and can really help in what we do. That leads us really onto legacy systems. We've kind of described these and all the other type things, but legacy systems can be very, very important. And this is a very strange one that I know that the industry suffers with, not as bad as maybe the banking industry, who still sit on mainframes and technology like that. But the legacy systems can have a number of different issues. Update schedules are out of sync with other update schedules. They won't talk to new systems, so you need something on top of it to control that. But legacy is both inherited, but also it's a part of the business that, how do we actually replace what's going on? AI has a bit of a release there where it can start talking above all this, and it can actually look at all the systems and integrate around it all. That's quite a new thing that to work to, but it can be a technology that releases us into something new and gives new opportunities to customers and logistics companies alike from there. If we want to move on, I'll now talk about AI, this wonderful topic that everybody loves and is discussed every day in the newspapers and confuses everybody massively. So what I'm going to try and share with you is some of the things that we've learned about AI and some of the things you do and do not need to know. The first one is to be proficient in AI, you do not need to know the latest LLM. You do not need to know how agentic workflows work and how agents are changing the world and how ChatGPT or NVIDIA is a bubble. This is not the applicable elements to you. AI is effectively a tool. Yeah, go on.
John, can you just explain agentic for me?
Yes. So this is a topic that's discussed a lot, and it's worth a discussion. So an agent is like an application where you utilize a prompt to take a decision that a human would take. And we like to share that with people because it's used a lot in the world and people don't always understand what it's for. So it's like automation. So automation would be a set of rules where it does yes and no's to get to your purpose. An agent or agentic AI will actually take a decision based on a prompt that you give it in a set of circumstances. So that's a little bit of a difference. To be very clear about agentic, although it's discussed heavily, the feedback is it's not preferred by businesses yet. Giving that ability to make a decision over to a piece of technology is still something that people are early stages with. And that's, something that will come in time, but we're going to need to be very used to that to get there.
And do you think people are spend a lot of time going down AI rabbit holes?
That's an interesting question. I believe that people are very keen to use this technology, but don't necessarily know how to start using the technology. I think it's technologists, we want you to buy the best, the newest, the shiniest. The biggest issue I find when we're talking about AI is finding a use case, an effective use case that works well for you. And that's really what I can cover now. The early adopters aren't looking for the advanced. The really key stage of this is they're looking for the mundane, the simple. the hotspot issue that's always been there, but they've never really known what to do with it. Yeah. That's a key learning for all the people who've actually managed to employ this. And there are people out there who are gaining the benefits from AI. It's got past POC. It's delivering value in the business. We have them in our company. We know of elsewhere to do it as well. But these issues that they're solving have always been issues. They're not new issues. And that's one of the really big learnings you want to take away from it. Look at the old issues you've got. What do you want to do with your data, the information there? Find those, the key. What's unusual about the focus? The perception of the focus is that Elon Musk is helping us all to send rockets to the moon. It's not the case. These tasks are mundane, dull, and issues that have just been there for a long time. Ultimately, AI is the maneuver of someone in business giving their information across, their knowledge, the knowledge they've held, and passing it to a system that allows a system to make a decision or change what they do. Yeah. When you take that very simple principle, you can start finding use cases that can be repeatable. So, for example, a human is unlikely to be able to search through and find the correct passages or the correct information from a million documents. AI does that very easily. Yeah, it can pick that up from there and give you a summary back. Those are the kind of use cases that you're looking to work towards. But never, please don't try and send your rocket to a moon. But also prompting. Prompting is a bit of a funny scenario. It's deemed as a toy at the moment, not necessarily as a key to business. People need to learn how to prompt correctly. It is everybody's responsibility if you want to utilize AI. And we can talk further about prompting if you want to come back to us. But it is a really interesting topic, and we're doing a lot of research on that. AI and unstructured data. Unstructured data is all the documents, the PDFs that you get stored that they say sit in those silos doing nothing. AI is a really, really great tool to start looking at those and finding out value. It really is a value release of what they're doing from there. So AI, the key message is don't look at it as a tool that's going to do something very advanced. Look at it as a tool that's going to do something very basic, very mundane, that's something you wouldn't before. Just one last point. I talked about automation around agentic. One thing that has been noticed, and it's worth noticing here, is that the attention of AI is on process outcomes and how it works. The background, the people who are trying to do that have worked out that automation is the key to get there. Yeah. It's almost like we've all got distracted by AI, and that's created a piece of vacuum that automation then fills. The reason they're looking at automation is that AI will take a bad process and make it worse. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people have noticed. So the actual attention now has gone back to a very basic automation, trying to make sure that you remove the manual connections in what you're doing, improve the workflow, and then the AI can be applied on top of that. There is a process flow to work through from there.
So basically trying to make those processes more efficient and having the right information to make decisions within those processes is what we're aiming for here. Yeah?
Yes, I believe so. And that's certainly the early indications that we've worked to. The people who've actually taken this, employed it, and accessing the ROIs, that's what they're experiencing from there. So in order to do that, we wanted to give you a sort of framework of pillars of transformation as such to how you can look at this and what areas you need to class as important. Now we'll break these down and look at them in a little bit more depth with Alistair, but really just an idea of this isn't the total transformation pillars. There could be probably many, many more. But what these are the key ones that we found in the early stages of this process. AI is evolving, AI is developing, but these are the key ones we're working to and from to give you that early indication. So I think, Ali, if you want to cover the first element of that process.
Absolutely. So I can draw a lot of this from my own experience, which is that as I've already mentioned, I do sit with clients and go through the various scenarios that they encounter on a day-to-day basis. And if I start from a very simple start point that actually most people seem to have the same issue with, which is that everyone has a lot of information coming into the office, whether that's emails, letters, electronic documents such as PDFs or Word documents. There are information requests that's deemed as data, and then there's data that you need to analyze. Somebody wants you to check a spreadsheet or check information and forward that on. In most companies, there's also, as we've already mentioned, a lot of legacy data. That might be physical filing cabinets, paperwork that needs ultimately to be scanned or to be stored. And businesses will get into problems where they're asked to search for things, as we've already mentioned. I don't just want to search for a particular consignment number. I might want to know when neighboring paperwork or other products or goods that were in that same consignment were dispatched and so forth. And that might be filed away inside a big warehouse somewhere, an impossibility for people to get that information out of it. So we start at the very beginning. We start by taking the strain out of that. So any information that might be captured already, fantastic. It doesn't matter if it's siloed or in legacy systems, but any other information needs scanning. We can look to backscan that and store that appropriately. And then we start to get into what we term the classification. And historically, that's where we will look at a piece of paper and we'll say, oh, that's an invoice. Oh, that's a delivery note, and store it away somewhere where probably people will never be able to find it again. Or it's stored under very simple constraints, very simple, what we call keywords. So I might look for an order based on its purchase order number or an invoice number that might be inside it. What we haven't been able to do up until now is search for things based on what the context or what the content of that document actually has. So in terms of those documents we've already got stored, yes, we've been able to search in very basic terms up until now, but with the new AI layers that we've got on top, we can go back and search that repository again. We can say, look, I want to make a decision now based on historic information or information that might be spread across multiple documents. These are things that, yes, you could do nowadays if you wanted to, but you'd need an army of people to read the documents, to comprehend them, to look at the figures, to analyze, to share that information, and then come up with an outcome, particularly for making business decisions. And that's where the AI element can come in and save a huge amount of time and do all this heavy lifting for us. It can not only look at the classification, it can look at the context of the information within the document. It can look at the sentiment of a letter. For example, you might have an unstructured document such as a letter. It may be a complaint letter, it may be a letter of congratulations. AI is able to detect these things. It's no longer black and white. Did the person choose a red color or a blue color or a green color? It's now, was this person happy? Did they have a good service? Was the delivery on time? It can be all of these other decision-making points now, which can be brought to the fore and actually saves a huge amount of time. So we can use all this for making these decisions, this prioritization, and for security and compliance, which we'll go on to talk about. But in this particular scenario, Office users can move from the daily grind of sorting through this information to instead having it presented to them in an organized, structured format, and often accompanied with prompts or suggestions of what the next steps are for that particular document's journey. And it goes to say, over the last few years, I've seen a seismic change now from clunky, as I'll call it, document handling, scanning, saving it somewhere where people won't see it, to intelligent processing now, where we are looking at what's inside these documents and being able to ask these specific things. And a typical example would be, I will see somebody searching for documents based on a number. I need something, document number 123, and then I need a neighboring document, and the time it takes. Now, through these human language models, as they're known, or LLMs, we can ask it simple questions. Identify the documents which are to do with the fleet management over the summer, or what priority custom forms are still on hold, or locating shipment documents that are missing, etc. So we can be really contextual when we ask these questions, and ultimately provide the information that we need for the onward journey of those documents. For example, placing into a workflow.
Brilliant. And that gives you really the idea of the workflows to follow on from. The way to contextualize a workflow or believe it, it's the arrows in the diagrams you see. And there is a number of ways of streamlining those workflows. I think we've referred to it as how workflows are changing, how they need to be improved and really rechecked to make sure of it. This is where we are at the moment. We're at a point where everything can be questioned because there might be a better way of doing it. And Ali's given a really good, insightful look at that. But in terms of the streamlining, that's where to look. Look at those arrows between in the basis of what the diagrams you see. That's where the processes can be improved from this perspective, from there.
Now, if we look at processes, we can't automate every process fully. There's always going to be exceptions, and there's always going to be need for people. And sometimes those people don't exist within your organization. That's where Hyland and Konica can help with business process outsourcing to handle some of those exceptions. We have teams of people around the world which you can leverage to do some of that work for you. It's really important with new systems to have the support of people who understand the technology and understand your business to drive those processes forward. This also is the case for when new systems are being implemented, and sometimes the organisations don't have the people for those systems, and this is somewhere where Hyland and Konica can also help there with technical specialists like Alistair, who's here, but also technical specialists in other areas, maybe SAP or whatever, to help you drive through that. So we become, I'll use the word again, a true partner to you, and driving change within the organisation with AI, but also with the people required to deliver those services.
And it would be remiss without mentioning security. Now, you're dealing with documentation, you're dealing with potential people's information. And it's very, very important that you cover security, particularly around AI. AI is a new technology. We all did it when ChatGPT opened. We threw one of our own documents from the company straight in there and it reviewed it, not realizing that the AI is actually learning from that document. You know, it is taking information. They are effectively one massive, massive absorption of data, however we give it to them. So when you're talking about security here, we take this very seriously, not only the storage, but also how you expose it to an LLM. You can, and that's the LLM is the compute engine around an AI. How you expose it is very important. And if you're considering AI, the security is one of the biggest key points. This is the reason most POCs in AI don't reach into scalable and don't reach into production, because they haven't considered the enterprise level security that you've built over these years to protect yourself and applied it to a new technology. It is available, it is useful, and it can be done, but it is very, very difficult. It's more difficult than most people realize. And I believe that once the security element is considered, AI projects go much, much quicker than they have before from there.
And from my point of view, security is the first thing I think about, how we ensure that any solutions we put forward are completely secure. Because, as John has said, it's often forgotten. And it's someone within the security team goes, oh, hold on, we can't do this, guys. We can't expose this data. So it's really important to get that up front. To ensure that the security is fully covered and everybody is happy.
It probably carries a similar gravity to the concerns people have when they look to move things into the cloud. You know, you're going from believing, rightly or wrongly, that your documents are all lovely and secure on your own network within the office. And suddenly it's been suggested that things need to go into the cloud. And you have this immediate sense of, wow, I'm letting it out of the front door. Therefore, it must be very vulnerable. Well, actually, in many cases, as I experience, it may well be that the documents you are housing within the company, internally on your own servers, were actually more vulnerable than some of the information that are then put out onto the cloud. In many cases, because security is at the heart of everything that's done within what I'll call the public realm, so up in the cloud or in an AI infrastructure. To that degree, there are several layers of this security, such that at every level, whether it's the transition of information from the scanner, let's say, from a piece of paper up into the AI engine, or it might just be the access of users that can access the information that's drawn from that AI. For example, I might be able to query a platform or a system to ask it a question, yet it will only return information I'm allowed to have access to. It won't allow me to have access to, for example, financial information, whereas our finance team could access that. Or it might be there are sensitive bits of information, for example, in an HR scenario where I perhaps am not allowed to see the information or documents or any information from it of a colleague or of somebody more senior to my position. So there are these levels of security which are applied at every point within the process, and actually the technology has been built with security at its heart. So that is, again, you're so right, John, that's something that crops up on every conversation I have.
Thank you. John, if you just
no, to round up, really, we've covered a very broad, a very large topic in a very concise way, and that's as much as we can give you today. And that leads us on now to a set of questions, if they're available. Mark, did you want to say something on this slide as well? Sorry.
Yeah. So for the people on the call, there are demos available, and we can take you through demos. We can also, of course, spin up demos which are specifically around specific areas you may want to look into. There will be a link to the webinar recording, so you can come back to that. And please, if you wish to get in touch, we're more than open and more than happy to work with you in a consultative way to find out what the best approach is for you, and not necessarily just overlay a shrink wrap product to you. It's very much here about the consultative approach and working with you as customers. Caroline, questions? Do we have 5 minutes for questions?
Well, first of all, thank you all three of you for that excellent presentation and discussion. And yeah, as you said, that leads us on to our Q&A session of this webinar. We've already got a few questions in, but for those viewers that haven't had time to submit your question, please do so, and we'll get through as many as possible. So with that, I'm going to kick off with the first question. Where do we start on the process of changing processes within our organisation with AI?
It's a big question. Where do we start is often hard, and sometimes consultants say at the beginning. I don't think that's right. The first thing is with investigation, with looking at those processes at the moment and which ones are. I'll use the word ripe for change, where there's maybe wastage and maybe where there is the ability to make that process more efficient. But John, Alistair?
Well, yeah, I'd say, yeah, go on.
Sorry, John. I was just going to add in there that it's the simple things to start with. It's from experience, it's not always sitting with the people that are trying to make a decision on how to change a process. It's sitting with the people that actually deal with these problems on a day-to-day basis, whether that's the actual inception of that or capturing of that document, or it's the pain they go through to pull the information from it. So it's understanding those things. And I have to say, in my experience, sometimes I find that people don't even realize that there are problems there because they will just take for granted it takes 10 minutes to obtain that information that's been asked for. And you do have to ask some awkward questions. Sometimes you have to feel like you're being a bit rude and saying, well, tell me why does it take you 10 minutes? Oh, it's very simple. I have to do X, Y, and Z. And you question, well, why are you doing X, Y, and Z? Surely there's a shortcut that you could make the most of there. And it's introducing those thought processes and just breaking things down into the small little components, because we're not trying to boil the ocean, an expression I heard someone say the other day. It needs to be small, little bits of benefit that can be added and then collectively put together into an AI solution.
It's often the people at the coalface, which are the people which are really affected by a process. And that's where process change, and as Alistair said, it can be the smaller processes which take a long while, which are the ones which are ripe for targeting.
Yeah, the hotspots we've found in this is AI is about augmentation. It's not about replacing people. We changed completely our messaging around that. The initial part of AI was we're going to change the workforce and remove it. We're finding that actually we're making people more effective. It's augmenting their work into something that makes them far more effective. Complaints and people who are upset with things, they're a great starting point. A hotspot is what we call them, but a complaint is a great place to start. What doesn't do.
I think it's a very valid point to make as well, John. A lot of people are scared of AI. I mean, I was when I first started to look at what potentially it could do, but actually it's empowered what I'm able to do. And I've seen it make such a benefit to so many other users' time, and they can use that time more efficiently and more effectively, then get on with the things that are probably on their job description more than the actual task they get labored with on a day-to-day basis. So it's all about embracing it. And much like any emerging new technology, it's going to have pros and cons, but we hope that the pros will well outweigh any negative side effects from it.
Yeah, typically increased productivity is the measure, not efficiency. Yeah, although we talk about efficiency and it does get discussed, productivity tends to be the measure that people work to.
Brilliant, thank you. We've got a question regarding the software. Somebody's asked, is this software specific to Konica Minolta and Hyland?
Absolutely not. I think the question there is more around, is it locked to software as to data that is held within Hyland, or data that is held and dealt with by Konica Minolta? Absolutely not. It's an open world system. It can deal with unstructured data wherever it may sit. John, I think you can probably answer a little bit better there.
Yeah, it acts as a layer above it. So the reason for that is we don't want integrations to affect the core systems. This is about utilizing AI, but not actually sort of relying on the systems to be updated at a certain value or anything like that. So it can interact with all sources of data that you need to. It's what we call the federated layer, which is getting into a bit more product specifics, which we're trying not to do. But in effect, you don't need to possess any technology from either company to start utilizing this particular AI. The main key is the use case. If you have a use case that means you need to structure, change, get value from data, there's probably something that can help you. But to be very clear, in this instance, it's unstructured data. It's not data from a database, but it's data that sits in a repository that would normally be sitting there doing nothing in a storage. So it just gives people an idea of where to look and where it can help from there. But AI is very, very good at it. And it isn't always covered in other. You'll hear a lot of AI talked about in terms of structured data. This is a slightly untapped market that people haven't quite clicked onto yet.
I think we've got time for one more question, Caroline.
Yep. Well, we've actually received an audience question, and it sort of links to the question that we'd received previously about, how to go about adopting these systems. How do you approach and convince a workforce that might be hesitant, to change their legacy processes that have been in place for, say, 10 to 20 years? I don't know if any of you've got any comments or recommendations for customers looking to address that.
I can certainly start with that. I see that almost daily. I mean, nobody likes change. I'm at the top of that list. It's not very nice, and particularly when I have change imposed on me, often by IT teams or something like that. It does go back to one of the earlier questions, which is it's all about providing benefits. It's all about empowering that user to allow them to do that job a little bit more easily. It might be that when they're very comfortable working a piece of software that they're working with at the moment, as John just said, allow them to continue working that. People working in SAP or in an ERP system or a CRM, a customer relationship management system or something, allow them to continue doing that. That's fine. We don't need to replace that part. All we're doing, perhaps in simple terms, is giving them a little search page where they can go in and type in or speak to it to say, I need the following information out, and it will then present back some information, say, I found this in your so-and-so system. It's here. Click this link and I can take you to it. So it's adding this extra layer on top. We're not looking to rip out what's currently there that they're doing at the moment. There may be processes which are spot on or people are comfortable with or are very productive doing already. So it's really about finding those little gaps, those little bits that we can ask questions about and say, look, I think we can provide a more useful resource for you at that point.
I think from my point of view as a consultant as well, make sure those people are involved in the change. Okay, often those people are not involved. The people at as I say, the coal face are not talked to and asked how the process is. So people who are involved in change are more likely to change rather than it being just implemented on them. John?
Yeah, the words I tell people all the time, it's evolution, not revolution. AI is actually very underwhelming at the moment in terms of business use. There's a lot of reasons for that. There's many elements it doing, but it will underwhelm us for a while from there. We've certainly put a lot of this into companies, and I'll be honest, it's never doing anything more than changing or evolving a process to be slightly better at the moment. And I believe for the next few years, it will be underwhelmed by it before it actually makes the real changes, and it could be longer than a few years. But ultimately, it's about finding these small changes that people get comfortable with that augment into something bigger and make it better. But I don't think the workforce, maybe there is a retraining element of understanding what the technology is and being comfortable with it. but I think you'll find there's a lot more process to be made better before we start removing things from processes. That's certainly our experience at the moment.
Fantastic. Well, thank you both. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for in today's webinar, but I'd like to thank you, Mark, Alistair, and John, for joining us today. I'd also like to thank Konica Minolta and Hyland for sponsoring today's webinar, and to remind everyone it will be available to review on demand via logisticsmanager.com. So if you want to refer back to the presentation or share it with a colleague, please look out for that. Finally, on behalf of Logistics Manager, thank you all for attending today's webinar, and I hope to see you for our next one. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Many thanks.